Next on Coffee Break Conversation.
Instead of being mad at the daughter, be mad at the developer. Instead of being mad at your son, be mad at the software engineer. There are PhD level technologists and scientists and neuroscientists that work in Silicon Valley trying to addict and engage our children. It's not even fair.
Hey, it's Hillary. Join me at the table for a helpful and hopeful chat about mental health in our community.
So often we get exhausted in our nervous system because we're in a consumption world.
Our culture has said men don't cry, and that has caused our society some major problems. I mean, I've had to learn how to do that.
It's so important that we don't just do what we think is best for autistic individuals, but we do what they think is best as well.
If I don't know about my own personality, how am I to show up for someone else? How will I meet someone else's needs if I can't meet my own?
80 to 90% of kids ages 9 to 17 are using AI regularly. Something we say now is AI is the new porn talk.
I feel called to be a for real light in the darkness.
So pull up a chair, pour yourself a cup of coffee or tea, and take a little break with me. This is Wedgwood's Coffee Break Conversation. In an age of texting, emailing, DMing, it's extra nice to sit down at a table for a conversation. And today I'm joined by a familiar face on the podcast, Brina Tiemeyer, Wedgwood's Director of Clinical Services, and a new friend, Chris McKenna, founder and CEO of Protect Young Eyes and author of the book, 5 Habits of the Tech-Ready Family. I'm so grateful that both of you could make the time today.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Same, yeah.
So clearly, we are in a digital-heavy age, and there are certainly benefits of technology like ease of connection and access to information, but there are also some serious drawbacks like ease of connection and access to information.
Right.
So let's talk about it. I'd like to define a couple of things up front just so we're all kind of on the same page.
Sure.
I'd like to talk about what social media is and then AI. What is like the different kinds of AI? So let's start with social media. In your minds, when you're talking about social media,
Sure.
what are you referencing?
Yeah, you want to jump
Sure,
in? I'll
sounds
follow
great.
you. Yeah, go for it.
All right. So ultimately, I would say that when I think back to when I got introduced to social media, it was means for communication. That is no longer how I would define social media, as not just a means for communication anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that when I am trying to write a definition for social media, I would say that it has become a platform of influence to including communication access, but it's become a platform of influence.
Yeah, I like that definition.
And so when I think about how to define these things, it's literally definitional because I work on laws that have to define what is it that we're talking about. And the beginning of most policy will state what is social media, what are we actually trying to legislate, because there are those who will try to say we're not that in order to get around something. So I often think of certain attributes, certainly connected to others, communicating in some way, be it through direct messaging or commenting, algorithmic components that are using a recommendation engine in order to preference based on what you're clicking on, liking certain content your way that's going to look different in my feed versus others. Targeting, advertising, right? These are attributes that I think are different than what happens when you say used to just turn on a TV and there was general programming for everybody. There wasn't this customized, sort of curated, individualized targeted approach to you as a user to feed you the most compelling version of itself because of how you used it before. That's an entirely different form of media that differentiates social media from what we've had in the past.
Yeah. And I like to both of your point, it's not what it was when we both started using it in 2007 or whatever. You know, Facebook was very different than it is now.
Sure.
And I think it's a good reminder that all of the targeting and the stuff that they are feeding you is certainly playing into how it is used and how it is received.
Right, absolutely. Well, you asked another one too, which is really important, right?
Yes, AI is the big buzzword, and I know that people, when you say AI, people automatically think of probably the generative AI, ChatGPT, Sora was a thing for a while, Gemini, that sort of stuff. But there are other kinds that I just want to make sure that we're defining a little bit, that there are different kinds and what they are, and maybe the ones that we're talking about a little more specifically today.
No question. And this one is actually harder. On one hand, definitionally, is easier. What is AI? But in terms of defining it for how we use it, what's so different about AI, Hillary, is how it has become entangled in everything else.
Yeah.
Social media was a thing, an app, a site that you could use and download. AI is becoming the DNA in these other things. It's in social media. It's in what you use to search. It's in the top of Chrome, which you say is a search engine. Wait, but Gemini is right at the top.
Yeah.
It's getting to the point where every digital space where we spend time, including social media, including apps we might use for whatever, have some component of AI in the engine behind it in some way. And that's what is going to present problems for parents, because instead of being a thing you can go and control, it's entwined in all the things that can be good and beneficial.
Yeah.
And so how do we isolate the good from the harmful with something that's so entangled?
Yeah.
But I think people traditionally think of ChatGPT just right out of the gate. When I ask rooms of parents, that's always what they think of first,
Yeah.
is that sort of black, simple screen with that Google-like bar that you type a question in order to have this generative AI, this large language learning sort of system feed you out something intelligent to help you with something. That's what parents traditionally, I think of. But I know we'll have a lot more to cover there. I'll probably pause there for now because it's a big question.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the things I wanted to maybe call attention to is that ChatGPT isn't necessarily the same thing as like an internal process system AI. And so there are different uses for it in different circumstances, but it's a good reminder too that AI in some form is integrated in pretty much everything we're doing now.
Well, I'm going to guess, Brina, the things that you do, I mean, certain types of AI have very different impacts on human beings.
Yeah.
In terms of young people, right? Because you say ChatGPT, more of a chatbot-like interaction versus an AI with skin and an avatar that has been designed to look like a human in a companion sort of way. That is a massively different type of AI. So to define what they are and not just put it all under this big umbrella is really important for parents, because different versions have different impacts, especially on young people, right?
Yeah, and I think that, so like our young minds are influenced or like interacting with that systems AI on a daily basis. And then the generative AI, not that I'm saying young kids aren't also like going to ChatGPT or some form of that every day either. What the difference though is they're, for parents, when talking about it, they're able to have a conversation or in their minds like, well, I can control a chat bot versus I don't know, they don't even understand the length of which it's going to take to have a conversation about the systems piece. And so it is very intertwined, but yet different, and it's impacting kids in different ways, specifically in that like companionship piece that is, we unfortunately are seeing even like developmental milestones being missed because we're missing opportunities by leaning too much into the tech of AI.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I guess we've kind of already launched into this a little bit, but how does all of this digital connection and technology and access to AI impact us as adults? I mean, we're talking a little bit how it's impacting kids, but we're using it too. So what does that look like on our end?
Well, I mean, we are social creatures. We were created to interact with each other. And yet what we found, COVID is a perfect example of a lot of things good and bad, but what we found is that connection doesn't mean you feel connected. We were more connected to each other than ever through a screen. And yet there was something missing relationally, emotionally, neurologically, spiritually, in this not happening.
Yeah.
There is something visceral that happens in the physical interaction with other human beings. Now, I believe, because of my worldview, that's because we were created by a relational God in relationship with Him. He saved us incarnate physically with us instead of snapping His fingers from heaven as a form of salvation. There's something significant in the physicality of being with each other that just causes us to feel different around each other, that simply can't be replaced by the technology we've had today. Now, we're going to get a little bit more into how AI is starting to, unfortunately, start to exhibit some of the same sort of neurological responses in the affection that it draws on in young people. We'll get to that. But I mean, up to this point, there's been this vast difference between how I felt scrolling on Instagram versus how I felt interacting with the two of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that for adults and kids to kind of separate the impact, I guess, is that adults, not always, but a lot of times have established their identity or they have been able to identify healthy versus unhealthy relationships, or at least have had that pointed out to them at some point, where children are still developing their identity.
Yeah.
Young minds are actually, at times, that's the most important thing they're working on is their identity and like defining the development of it and the creation of it. And so with that, we have these young brains who are not only developing like affect regulation skills, emotional connection, but they are doing that in a world that is very high tech, and adults were able to, for the most part where we are right now, we're able to build those skills outside of the technology platform. And so when they're going in to interact with technology, they already were able to decipher a little bit of healthy versus unhealthy because of the skills they were established outside of it. And so I think that that is a big difference between the impact on adults versus children, is that some of the things that are unfortunately negatively impacting youth development, I'm not saying that it wouldn't have negatively impacted the adults. It's because it just wasn't as exposed at that age, or that developmental stage.
Yeah. Yeah. Thinking back to like when I first started using social media, it felt like, I mean, not in whole, but for the most part, a lot of the content I was engaging with, or the people I was engaging with, or stuff I had access to was a little bit more like within my age range, you know, stage of development, where it feels like kids today are being exposed to things way above their development level, or where they're at, that they're missing stuff. They're just kind of skipping ahead, or they're getting to stuff before their little brains are ready for it.
Yeah, I've spoken to many, like you, Brina, on the work that you do, that we've discussed the concept of too much too soon, right? So our brains have certain frameworks and templates that we work through as we have different relational just experiences in the world. And we often find ourselves in a better spot when we have, and I tend to think of it, and I know not all brains are like this, but in terms of, think of your brain like a bunch of files in a drawer. And if you're a child and someone has taught you about something, given you a frame to put it in, that creates a file that then you can put information inside of.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, technology does connect us to everybody all the time, and it exposes too many young people to content they don't have a file for.
Oh, yeah.
And that creates a lot of internal distress and uncertainty and unhealthy curiosity and just chaos in a life that doesn't know where to put it. And so I've spoken to many, like you have just said, they just come in with a lot of questions. It's too much too soon. Whether a mom who came to me who discovered her daughter having nightmares inexplicably and was looking into it, couldn't figure it out, and turned out that she had, through, I don't remember if it was YouTube or what it was, but had been exposed to some really horrific pornography and didn't have a place to put that. And it was creating all of this just disruption and dysregulation in her neurologically, that it was giving her nightmares at night. And once they identified that, and could right? So she didn't have a drawer or a file to put it in. And that's what's happening to too many young people. It's too much too soon. And it creates all of this just confusion inside of their young minds.
Yeah. I mean, you just explained like a lot of the research behind evidence-based practice in working with children who have experienced traumatic experiences. So whether the trauma is acute, complex, or chronic, it doesn't matter. A lot of times the reason why children get stuck in this altered state of mind, the fight, flight, freeze, fawn response, is because that exact example of they don't have a spot to put that experience in their filing system. Like they don't know how to process what happened to them, the trauma, the traumatic event or situation or reoccurring events. They don't know where to put those in their filing system, and so they get stuck. They get stuck in this internal alert system of fight, flight, freeze, fawn. And so just like before, when we were thinking through all these evidence-based practices, all these modalities to treat children's young minds to heal from trauma events.
Right.
The difference is, like that example you gave, is parents are coming in and they're like, I mean, besides, like, I know everyone has trauma in their life, like COVID, things like that, but they're like, I don't know a singular event that causes this symptom or that caused this behavior all of a sudden. I just know it's been going on and has been getting worse for 3 to 6 months. And it is because, exactly like you described, the little brains are having trauma reactions and not necessarily with a singular incident or chronic incident that they could identify, because there's so much access to exposure to things that we don't have control over.
Yeah,
definitely.
That's so scary. Which has me thinking about, like, I mean, I know with young kids, critical thinking and media literacy isn't necessarily like one of the developmental milestones we're necessarily looking for. But when we get into like late elementary school, early middle school, high school, I feel like as someone who works in communications, media literacy is something that's very important to me.
Right.
And that is certainly a skill that we're noticing kids are not really developing, critical thinking and media literacy. So I just would love to hear more about what you guys think about where this is going, maybe what we can do, any thoughts you have about how technology, social media, AI are impacting these things.
Well, I mean, you bring up this idea of literacy, which is education that should be happening in multiple layers of society. And we just haven't gotten to the point where we prioritize it the way that it should, right? So it's easy, say, to point to schools and look at the curriculum and the requirements that schools have. Not that geometry isn't important. I'm going to offend a lot of math teachers for just a minute, but I haven't used the Pythagorean theorem for a long time. Maybe that's why I can't build anything with square, with 90-degree corners well. But I'm just saying that we prioritize certain things in education as we should. And yet every single day, multiple times every single day, I am applying principles related to responsible digital choices.
Yeah.
How I respond or don't respond to an emotional email. How do I discern whether or not that's an AI-generated image or not? What's fake news? What isn't? These sort of digital citizenship principles, to me, are at the same level as almost anything else at that curriculum level. And that's just at school, not to mention home and places of worship and other places that I think are probably... There's opportunity, I think, for us to do better in all of these layers of society. We're just not there yet, and we need to be.
Yeah, I think that exactly like you said, that we have continued along the path of like teaching math, reading, writing, but we haven't had classes formed or curriculum created for those young minds that I'm aware of that are very specific in every classroom, like a standard across. To teach like not only algorithm literacy, but also like AI literacy. And I think that concept of trust but verify is missing in the curriculum across all forms of that critical thinking.
And here's what gets really messy. So again, we keep coming back to this time where we gave every kid a Chromebook and gave every kid an iPad in order to continue education about 6 years ago. Now those very same devices all have AI in them. Right? So you're seeing this nationwide backlash against educational technology. And how do we undo? Because we're seeing that none of the promises that were made by the same exact companies who sold us social media, who then sold the same devices to education, promising all of this personalized engagement, all these personalized learning outcomes, none of it happened. Right? And so the tools even that we've been sold to do the sorts of things that we thought were going to help our kids with technology. Again, it was built on the same business model that Snapchat was, Instagram was. It's an engagement, profit-driven business model that we have to continually question every time we want to try to educate, which is where we spend a lot of our time. It's like, we got to get homes right. We've got to get more and more families on board with prioritizing these kinds of conversations, trying to convince as many parents as possible. Something we say now is AI is the new porn talk. Like for us with parents, we need them to have this conversation because they're going to run into it. I mean, recent surveys are showing 80 to 90% of kids ages 9 to 17 are using AI regularly. And yet less than 40% of families are talking to their kids about it. There's a gap there.
Well, I think like to piggyback off of maybe turning around those math teachers and not feeling offended is that it's not just up to them. Like I think that But unfortunately, the psychoeducation on that piece of literacy doesn't exist. So like many of the adults taking care of these kids also don't have it.
Yeah.
And so
They don't.
it's not something that, if you think to us as adults, we didn't go through school with that either.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
I think that it's a missed gap on both the adults and young minds that we're talking about, because AI should be used as like this smart assistant rather than this like unquestionable source.
Yeah.
And so I think that we don't necessarily have those skills across all generations. It's something that we all are still actively learning while it's right here at our fingertips.
Yeah.
That's right.
Building it while the plane, what is it?
You're building a plane while we're flying
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
has
yeah.
never been more true
Yes.
than with AI.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah. So we've maybe touched on this a little bit, but maybe I'd love to hear about some trends that you're seeing or some big concerns that are kind of coming up pretty regularly. What should we be looking for?
Well, surveys that literally, and people will watch this at various points. So for me to say 2 days ago doesn't really mean a whole lot to the person watching this in a couple of months. But 2 days before this conversation, there was a pretty interesting study put out by Common Sense Media related to young people in AI that talks about some of these gaps that exist between usage and education. And that was true with social media now because this technology is moving faster than ever. And I think one of the things that parents need to remind themselves is, even among adults, the number one use of AI among adults in America is for therapy and companionship. It's not the help me type the email. It's not help me phrase or code this on my website. It is therapy and companionship. That should be a wake-up call for us in our adult brains who are feeling lonely. What is that going to do to a young person who, during adolescence, I've been told, their need to connect with others is as strong a feeling as hunger to the adolescent brain. Me wanting to connect with my friends during adolescence is survival level instinct, like lizard part of the brain, give me my friends.
Yeah, wow.
I just want my friends. And so now we've given them a sycophantic, perfect version of friendship that never has drama, that never gets mad at them, and will do whatever they want. I guarantee at certain days, the lonely 14-year-old version of me would have wanted that. Right? So that's what we have to educate against is the accessibility of something that hits deep needs within me as a young person. And you can't even fault them for wanting it. It's how they're created. That's what they want, is that companionship. So we need to catch up to this.
Yeah. And I know we talked about this a little bit at State of the Child, our Wedgwood's State of the Child conference this past year. One of the girls on the teen panel mentioned she lost a friend because the friend was so used to talking to AI, and AI would validate her, that
That's
when
right.
she offered some constructive feedback to her friend said, "Don't talk to me that way." And we're seeing a lot of that kids just want this validation. Yeah.
Yeah, so kids are looking for validation, but it's also because, unfortunately, so we talk about how behaviors are to meet needs, and behavior is a form of communication.
Yeah.
And so when we are consistently presented with a opportunity to be poured into by someone who is, someone as in the AI companion, to clarify that, but when we are being poured into by someone, something that is non-confrontational, that does not make us access our critical thinking or problem-solving part of our brain, then we're going to sit in that comfort. We're going to react to be more comfortable with the comfort than constantly trying to challenge all aspects of our identity and our well-being, which is what these face-to-face interactions have to do. In these face-to-face interactions, in relationships, we are not only constantly reading each other's facial expressions, body language, tone of voice, but we are also like being aware of our surroundings, our environment. There's so many aspects playing into everything we say, how we interact, and that is taken away when you are having this conversation on a screen and then also not being challenged the same way you would be to have to respond to someone else's response or reaction to what you just said. it's very flat. There's no development happening.
That's right.
And I think that what we need to understand is that recent research has even showed that although young people are in that like lizard part of their brain, or that young people are supposedly more connected than ever because of all of this technology and social media access, they also are the loneliest they've ever been. And study after study after study is showing that our young brains are feeling more lonely than they've ever felt before, yet we've connected them to easy access.
Yeah.
And connection doesn't mean you don't feel lonely. That's kind of like the summary of that.
Yeah.
Could you speak? You triggered something in me that I think is really important for those who watch this may need to understand, and that is this idea of friction during development, during childhood. There is a need, isn't there, for friction in order to develop into a resilient adult version of ourselves. And what you're describing with artificial intelligence is the removal of friction. Yes. I no longer have to respond spontaneously in a conversation. It's sort of crafted and it's beautiful and clean. I don't have to deal with the messiness of drama in a boyfriend or girlfriend or a friendship. And yet none of this prepares them for what real life is.
Or real world interactions.
And
and I think also you're going to, on the other side too, you're going to unfortunately reinforce these thinking habits that we like to refer to as traps, where you're not going to be able to get out of situations or see other sides of situations in a way to help you work through daily life stressors. And so what builds resiliency is building blocks to get through hard times. And those building blocks include being able to understand when friction is happening and what do I do when I'm experiencing this friction and what block do I need to pull to get through this friction. And if we are constantly being prevented from friction, then we lose the opportunity to create those building blocks to have that staircase towards resiliency and handling daily life stress. Like an example is if we have never been challenged in our interactions because our communication has always been with AI or has primarily been with someone who always agrees with us, the time that we do experience it for the first time could set us back off to identifying that daily life stress as a trauma. It can set our brain off to go as far as to putting it in, not knowing where to put it in that filing cabinet. Because it doesn't know how to respond, which is why we always talk about if the three of us were in a car right now and I will say I'm the bad driver and I got in a car accident. And let's say it was your first car accident ever, but you've been in a couple fender benders before.
Sure, I'm a bad driver, it's likely, so
But we're all going to experience that event differently.
That's right.
Because of the map of our world, the lens that we're looking at the event, right? And we are going to adapt and respond to the exact experience because of those building blocks. And so if we were all at a point where we've not experienced friction or that we were experiencing it in such a bubble or like lack of it, then we're more likely to not know how to place that experience or how to process it or get through it.
And this is where I think it's also important too, that we can't just blame all technology for all these issues too. I mean, we live in a world of overprotective parenting. Often because of our own technology habits where we're being fed a algorithmic list of horrible news all of the time that is showing us every dumpster fire on planet Earth. And so that tends to shape our parenting in a way too, where we don't often let our kids experience some difficult times, experience a little bit of friction, do a few things on their own. And so there's a both and there. I want to make sure we don't just blame all the technology. It's multifaceted. And the point being, in order, whether you're a bear or a boy, in order to become a more resilient, capable, thriving version of yourself as an adult, you gotta deal with a little bit of hardship on the way and a little bit of just figuring stuff out with other people.
And I think it's like for parents, it's not necessarily where we're saying you need to focus just on monitoring. We're actually saying, I guess I'll speak for me, you need to focus more on mentoring. So it's like, don't just monitor, the social media. Don't just monitor your child's interactions with their peers or their activities. Mentor them through them.
Yeah.
Like, don't make them do it alone.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that I love the way you put that, because we do have to walk kids through it. I mean, to be fair, we're also still learning some of it as we go too, but
Sure.
that approach also shows kids how we figure things out in a healthy way. It models problem solving, and oops, that was a mistake. We probably shouldn't do that next time. So that's a great way to think about it, is mentoring kids as they are figuring it out.
It's great. It's huge, because I think it changes our mindset. Monitoring is a mindset. I am trying to catch you doing something wrong so I can correct it. Mentoring is, I can't wait to show you how to do this well. And even as a parent, I just think that 1 degree difference changes our tone, our posture, everything about how we interact with our kids with technology in a really helpful way.
And honestly, kids are more likely to learn from what we model than what we say.
Yeah.
No
Oh,
question.
for sure.
And so they're going to remember the behavior more than the words that came out of the mouth.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I can say that even for adults too. Like, we're typically going to remember something that impacted us because of a behavior than we are versus the words. Like, the words are going to last, but eventually the impact is that physical movement piece as well, not just the words.
Okay, so this is going to feel like a really broad question. So what do we do? How
Yeah.
maybe practically can we mentor? What is the right level of monitoring? What should kids be using and what should they definitely not be using? I mean, how do we help kids navigate this digital world? How do we help ourselves navigate this digital world?
Yeah. That is a big one,
Yeah.
which is why I wrote a book. It took 254 pages to
Yeah.
write down the answer to your question. But there are some non-negotiables for me, okay? No minors, 0 to 18, should be using AI companions, period. They do not belong in childhood. If we rolled out anything else in the physical world in the same way that we've rolled out AI, imagine a prescription drug that maybe caused 14 young people to commit suicide because it encouraged them along the way, and we just kept it in the browser of the Chromebook that they use at school called Gemini. Like, if we rolled out anything like a prescription drug or something in a car seat that children use and let the same amount of harm exist in that without recalling it, it would never happen.
Yeah.
So to me, it is a recallable, and that's not Dr. Gaia Bernstein. She's an attorney at Seton Hall. This is her language. It is a recallable technology that should not exist in society until it can prove that it's safe.
Well, yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So that's an example of something that I have a bright line on.
Yeah.
And other things are more in the practices, as you were saying, and that's why we wrote 5 habits, because I think there's certain things persistently and consistently that parents need to be doing in order to create a safer digital space, like modeling the right behaviors, like pursuing authentic connection, like encouraging work and play, delaying not all but addictive technologies, and then layers of protection that diligently prevent harm with hardware and software. These layers and these habits are what I believe, whether it's pornography or gaming or social media or AI, are the practices that help create a safer digital space. So those are the high level. There's all kinds of real nitty-gritty practical applications to that. But in my world, that's how we teach parents how to navigate where we are today.
Yeah, we'll add a link to Chris's book in the show notes too, if you want to check out those 254 pages of detail.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just ultimately, I mean, I echo what you've said. I think, though, holding space to create curiosity, that's kind of what I like to say to parents is, like, let's hold space for creating curiosity. Let's not just stick to surveillance. Let's not just say that, like, but it's my job. It is, but it's your job as well to hold space for curiosity. And in that's going to allow for educators to know it's okay to teach outside of the math, reading, writing. It's going to allow kids to encourage each other, but also themselves, to participate in that extracurricular activity or to go outside. It's going to allow them to have those offline experiences, because they're going to get bored if you're pushing curiosity and they run out of ways to, like, be curious about what's in front of them.
Right.
And also, it again is that modeling, but it's asking questions, that open conversation for curiosity and development of experiences, which then are going to really build the development of relationships.
I love that. And I think to build on that a little bit, because this is, I think, Brina, what catches us as parents. We get so overwhelmed because we don't understand all the routers and the technology. And if we start with the tech, it is going to feel overwhelming. But I think, the parents and the caregivers listening to this, they are capable. They can do the things that I think contribute to the most success here. And sometimes it's just a 1 degree change in how we think about things. Here's the deal. If we give our children this insane technology, they are eventually going to make a mistake. They are going to send something, say something, share something, snap something we really wish they had not. That is the reality. The variable is, how are we going to respond? We have to decide right now that in that reality, we have to practice our response. So I sometimes joke with parents, go in a room and make a list of all the horrible things that you hope never happen to your kid with technology. Write them down, close the door, and then say each one of them out loud in the mirror, and then say, I'm not going to freak out. I'm not going to freak out. Because our mindset needs to be that we're not mad at the kid. Instead of being mad at the daughter, be mad at the developer. Instead of being mad at your son, be mad at the software engineer. There are PhD level technologists and scientists and neuroscientists that work in Silicon Valley trying to addict and engage our children. It's not even fair.
Yeah.
And so when we step back and understand really what we're handing them and what they're up against, I hope it changes our position of one from condemnation to empathy. Because the 14, the 4, the 17-year-old version of us, some of us might be in prison right now if the technology existed back then that we have today.
Yeah.
So we just have to remember what we're up against and to treat our kids accordingly.
And I think that I think to give parents just another level of comfort in that they are capable is I would give similar statements, similar advice on what is the worst case and how would you handle if it happened to you? Because I think about when we have conversations regarding mental health and the topic of suicide, a lot of times parents are like, well, I just never asked because I was scared that I wouldn't know what to say.
That's right.
I never talked about it because I was scared that I would push them to it or make them think about it more. And all research shows is honestly, the most harmful thing to do is not ask.
Yeah, it
And
is.
so it's making the uncomfortable okay to talk about.
Yeah.
It is providing that safe space or that brave space to hold conversations that we may not personally identify ourselves as experts on, but we're showing our children that we are capable of holding that space for them and being uncomfortable with them in the rough conversations. And I think that is not a new parenting skill or a new suggestion to try to work on as a parent. It's just adapt it to each topic of conversation, whether it's AI, whether it's dating and your rights in a relationship, whether it's substances. Like you constantly want to kind of reframe your parenting to say, are we approaching this as, okay, worst case scenario happens and it happened, so now like I'm going to react, I'm going to punish and give consequence, or it happened, we can't change that it did. How are we going to respond? And are we going to show that we are safe to have a conversation about it?
I think it goes back to a little bit too what you said earlier about approaching things with curiosity. So if you're concerned about having a conversation with your kid about suicide or what they're seeing online, approaching it with a sense of curiosity, I think will help the child feel more heard and understood. Like mom's not judging me, just has a question. And then you can maybe also then get to the root of, okay, if they're interacting all the time on this one game or they're always asking AI for answers, why? That maybe will get you to the root of why they are doing that. And then that is an addressable thing that you can tackle together as a family.
Yeah, and like you said, these aren't new ideas. Putting things out in the light in order to rob the enemy's power from them is not a new idea. Approaching our children with grace and then truth, that's not a new idea, right? These are timeless ideas that we just need to apply to today's technologies in order to have the kinds of conversations and curiosities and open spaces that can really, really lead to a good spot.
Yeah. And I feel like I want to like re-summarize a little bit that while a lot of the stuff that we're talking about can sound big and scary and oh my gosh, everything is doomed. But like you both have said, the principles are not new. everyone is capable. It's just applying it in a new format. So there's still hope. Like, no one needs to be terrified of a kid logging onto a computer.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay. We just have to be intentional.
Yeah, give yourself some grace. You're not the first one to travel this path. There are other parents right now. Maybe generationally, we are the first parents to travel some of these paths, but there are others like you. So find that like-minded group, reach out. It is so lonely being the only parent on no Snapchat island.
Yeah.
I get that. So reach out to others. There are other families that you can connect to, make these collective action kind of agreements. As Jonathan Haidt talks about, it's so much easier having some of these positions when you're not the only one.
Mm-hmm.
Find trusted resources. I hope Protect Young Eyes can be one of them, but there are many others, because this can feel overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly where the enemy wants, is that one-on-one, because then that fear comes in and we've got to avoid that. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah. What 3 things do you want to make sure people understand or take away from this conversation today?
Gosh, we've already given so many good ones.
I know.
Let's do it again, right? Well, I mean, I think when I think about the different tools that parents have, you can put them into 3 main buckets. There are spiritual components to leading our kids in the digital age. There are technical components, some of the toggles and software and switches, and there's relational components. Start with the relational. Lead with the relationship. Build that foundation there of curiosity, of openness. As I say to parents, say certain things to your kids about technology so often that they're rolling their eyes and finishing your sentences. I want us to be the algorithm when it comes to certain invitations about talk to us about this, or I'll never be upset if you do, never a bad time, never in trouble. You can always land safely and softly with me. Like, these are things I want on repeat algorithmically from us relationally, so that we can get to the technical stuff. But don't start there. Start with what you've already got, and that is the relationship. Push into it.
I love that.
I think for me, I would say that we need to remind ourselves that technology is not a villain. I think passive use of technology is the villain.
Yeah.
I also would say that another takeaway that we talked about is critical thinking, and that skill that is developed from these conversations such as this or these face-to-face interactions is kind of like the new superpower. It really is a superpower that we adults have for the most part, but also need to be able to teach that superpower and share that superpower with those minds that we're molding and investing into. And I think that we always need to remember, and I know that this is a saying that I've had teens say for years, but real life matters most. I hear them. I'm not going to dismiss how important their followers or likes or connections online are, but we want to ensure that we are modeling that as adults in their lives, that our real life matters more than our LinkedIn profile or our presence online. Real life matters most, and let's model that for our youth.
I love that. Yeah.
Most definitely. It's good.
This has been really great. And I'm going to do a real big switch gears here.
All right.
We're going to launch into our Instabrew questions. So I'm going to just ask a question, and you're going to quick brew up your answer.
Wow. Do I have to be a coffee drinker to do that or not?
No,
That's okay.
Actually, you're jumping the gun, because the first question is, what is your coffee break drink of choice?
Water.
Great.
That's such a lame answer.
Hydration. I love it.
I make the coffee every day because my wife
That's so nice.
really appreciates it, but I don't drink a drop of it. So there we go.
Coffee all the way.
There we go.
I
Yeah.
love coffee.
Oh, good.
Beautiful. Best season.
Fall.
Ooh.
Fall. I went fall.
So my best season for clothing is fall.
Ooh.
But for activities and entertainment is summer.
That's the first interest. That is an interesting clarification. I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah. I went with fall because I'm a runner and the summer's too hot, so I appreciate the cooler weather. I just
fair.
didn't attach clothing to it. So
Personally, I love my fall boots. I would wear an outfit all
there
day
you
that I could
go.
wear my fall boots. So, but ultimately, I like the activities. of summer.
There
Can
we go.
confirm Brina has cute boots. Favorite movie?
Star Wars.
One in particular, or as a whole?
I mean, the first one, episode 4. My daughter reminded me that I am truly old because I've been alive for all 9 of them. So as we approach the 50th anniversary of Star Wars #1, episode 4, I will be reminded often by her how old I am. So there we go.
That's great. My favorite movie is Love and Basketball. It's been my favorite since I was 13.
It's a classic.
It is.
What is the thing you are recommending most to people?
Oh, recommending most to people? See as much of this world as possible.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Travel, travel, travel. Hop in the car, drive places. Road trips, family road trips are the best. Travel, see the world.
Love that.
I think that my automatic thought, if I really had to give it, was going to be regarding building a community or reassess your community. But I also think that for me, in that physical activity is what I've been recommending the most and have consistently been showing at the forefront of my community and of my interactions is movement. Find time for movement.
It's good.
Devastatingly, diet and exercise are really good for your mental health.
Darn it.
Unfortunately, that works. What is your favorite self-care practice?
So for me, I think that scheduled self-care is a must in regards to time with my community. So I am a big believer in that my cup is refilled by being around those communities that I voluntarily chose to be a part of, investing in them, and then allowing them to invest in me back.
I love that.
Running without headphones, especially down Thornapple Drive in the fall.
Wow.
I haven't used headphones for over a decade. It's how I hear the Lord. It's how I process, how I think. Plus, people drive worse than ever because they're more distracted. So I need to play a little bit of defense while running these days.
Sure.
But I love it.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Where are you finding hope?
Where am I finding hope? Oh, goodness. I'm finding hope in the fact that no matter what happens in this world, I can depend on a God who cares and loves for us. There's always a remnant. There's always the possibility that something positive can come out of this event. And I have to believe that. I have to bank on that.
I love that. Amen.
Yeah, I think that, so my automatic answer, the thought that popped in my head right away was my kids. I know that is, could say a cliche response, but ultimately, no matter the hards of the day or the hards of life, I can think of my worst days and a time with those kids that they made me laugh.
That's right.
That's where I would find my hope.
Can confirm. Brina's kids also cute.
Parenting is wild, isn't it? It is. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for this conversation and for being here and sharing your insights and your heart. This was such a great coffee break. I really enjoyed chatting with you both today.
Thanks
for having me.
To learn more about the work Chris and Protect Young Eyes are doing, you can visit protectyoungeyes.com, and you can get a copy of his book, 5 Habits of the Tech-Ready Family, from Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Christian Book, or techreadyfamily.com. And we'll be sure to have all of the links to those things in the show notes as well. And if you've loved this coffee break conversation, be sure you are subscribed on your favorite podcast platform or on YouTube. And to learn more about how we are brewing up hope here at Wedgwood, you can visit wedgwood.org. Stay hopeful, stay helpful, and let's have another coffee break soon.